Hi everybody, I'm getting ready to do a little bit of work to my native tank here, and so I want to do a little bit of an update. We'll probably do a before and after video so that we can get a little bit better look at the fish. We will definitely be able to see in the tank better for the after part of the video because I'm going to be removing a lot of that duckweed you can see floating on the surface. I come in here about once a week and just shovel the stuff off with my hands, but it grows right back. I've also got a lot of the water sprite growing in there, and as a result it's blocking a lot of the light, and we're not really going to be able to get a good close-up look at any of the fish until I've done some maintenance, gotten that out of there. I also want to drain some of that water out. It probably doesn't need it necessarily, but it's getting really tannin stained, and that also makes it a lot more difficult to see the real true colors of the fish and so on and so forth. So another thing I'm going to check while we're in there is to find out whether my crayfish is still alive. I don't know whether it's going to show up on camera or not, but for the last several days I have been seeing its claw down in that cave, and of course it's not showing up on camera. I can barely see it myself with my own eyes, but it is in there. I can see that crayfish's claw lying right there within the edge of my sight, but it has not moved at all in 3 or 4 days now. So I don't know if that crayfish is still alive under there. I have lost other crayfish in this tank because they had issues with difficulty molting, and they weren't killed by anything else. They just were unable to molt, and that will kill a crustacean if it can't get out of its old shell. So it's entirely possible that that one was in the process of molting and was not successful, and now I've got a dead crayfish in there. It's been several days and the tank still smells fresh as a daisy, so I don't know what the deal would be. I don't know how I could have a several day old dead crayfish in the tank and not smell it, but it's possible. I don't know, but we're going to find out when I'm in there. I'm going to lift that rock up and we're going to see for ourselves whether that crayfish is still alive. So that'll be coming up here shortly. So we're going to call this part of the video your before, and there's your after. So before I even started on the water change and before we looked for the crayfish, I got in there and I scooped a bunch of duckweed out with my bare hand. I didn't use a net or anything. And then once I let a little more light into the tank, we had a look for the crayfish. So we're going to go ahead and have a look at how much duckweed I was able to pull out with my bare hands, and then we're going to have a look for the crayfish. Alright everybody, let's find out whether that crayfish is still alive or not. And it does not appear to be. Oh, now I can smell it. Yeah, it definitely is not. And was definitely in the process of molting when it died. One of its sides is half torn out. Definitely no longer a living crayfish in this tank. So that gives you a pretty good look at how big it was. And that really whiffs, so this is going outside. So you can see that the crayfish is now gone. And it's interesting, when I started filming here for the after part of the video, the little sunfish that is in there was actually kind of hanging out in the cave where the crayfish used to be. There he is, right there in the front of the tank now. I was looking for it. So that is what I want to actually focus on in the second part of this video, now that we can see into the tank. But before we get to that, I want to show you how much more duckweed I got after I scooped out that initial couple of handfuls. That actually went right in the other room into the trash. This is completely different than that. This is in addition to all of that. So that is how much duckweed I actually pulled out of there. I probably pulled a pound of duckweed out of the tank today. I also got a ton of the water sprite out of there, so it will have duckweed mixed in with it. I will do my best to separate it and get the duckweed out of it, but I'll have plenty of water sprite available, and I've got both the broadleaf and the lace leaf. You can see the difference right there, that being the lace leaf, and then over here we can see more of that broadleaf variety. So I've got both of those now available for sale. You can check my email down below if you're interested. And then the other point to this tank is the progress of my little sunfish in here. Of course, I've lost it now. I don't see it again. But it's doing really well. It's looking good. It's putting on weight. It's getting much more outgoing and aggressive. It comes right up to the glass at feeding time, whereas the other fish tend to be a little more, you know, reclusive. They stay in the back. They wait for the food to come to them. This sunfish already comes out and comes right up to the top whenever I come over and start feeding the tank. So it's getting really outgoing. It's probably going to wind up being fairly aggressive once it gets a little bit bigger. And I know that still looks really small, but remember, when I caught it, I had trouble catching it because it was falling through the holes in the net, and it was not a big net. So it's pretty interesting that it's getting that big that quickly. I still think that we got a bluegill, which is what I was hoping to get. There's a lot of different species of sunfish around here. I'm not really familiar with all of them. I can't readily identify them by sight, but I think this one is a bluegill, which means while it will still be sort of aggressive in a territorial sort of way, and I've already noticed aggression in this one. I've seen it chasing those other fish around the tank, but it's not going to be feeding on the other fish, at least none of the full-grown fish. It might feed on the fry that's in there, and I do have a lot of little baby gambusia swimming around. There's a lot of young ones in there, and presumably there's a lot of teeny tiny ones that I don't get to see. And that sunfish right there will already feed on those. But once they get a little bit bigger, even if it's aggressive in a territorial sense, it won't be gobbling up all the other fish in the tank. If I got green sunfish, for example, green sunfish would be gobbling up the other fish in the tank. There'd be no fish left besides a green sunfish if that's what this one turns out to be. So hopefully it is just a bluegill. And again, I know it will be aggressive in the territorial sense, but it's not going to gobble up all the other fish in the tank as it gets bigger. And again, you can see the stripes on it, so I'm pretty sure it's not going to be anything other than the bluegill I'm expecting it to be. So, alright, there you go. That's all I really wanted to have a look at was the crayfish, find out if it was alive, get the tank cleaned up a little bit. And I also wanted to give everybody a look at the progress of my little sunfish in there. So thanks for watching that one. Hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to some outdoors videos coming up real soon as we try to replace the now dead crayfish. I got no crayfish in this tank at all. So I will be doing some outdoors video where we go out and try to catch some crayfish to put back in here and we can watch them grow up. So make sure you subscribe. You won't miss that or anything else. Thanks for watching this one. Don't forget it is my native tank. Hope to see you real soon.